If you have been decluttering for any length of time, you've likely asked yourself or someone else, is there a reason I should keep this? And of course, the answer is there's a million reasons you should keep something, but is that the answer that really helps us to achieve the goal or really clear our space of all of the physical and mental clutter that we really are seeking? Let's talk more about that coming up next. Well, hello friend, I'm Mary Beth from At What Cost, where we are learning to apply God's truths to our everyday lives. And the best way that our family has discovered to do that is by adapting to a more minimalistic lifestyle. So it doesn't have to be scary. I know everyone hears the term minimalism and you kind of get this idea of people who can just like paint their walls white and hold all of their possessions in the palm of their hand. And that's certainly not the case for us, but we do strive to live a more simplified life. And throughout this journey, I have experienced lots of conversations with lots of different people in various stages of the decluttering process, regardless of whether or not your end goal is minimalism or you just kind of want to tidy your house up a little more, make it easier to clean, or whatever your motivation is for decluttering. This idea of usefulness or what am I going to do if I need this item is likely going to come up. And this question isn't exclusive to any one category in our home. It can be because we want to keep something for sentimental reasons or because it's useful, we spent money on it. This idea of why should I keep this comes up throughout the process. And I think it all really comes down to one major scientific fact. Our brains enjoy being on autopilot. We don't want to have to think about all of the different things that our brains encounter throughout the day. If you really stop and think about all of the decisions and all of the activities, the actions that your brain has to take throughout the day, if we didn't go on autopilot for some things, we just could not handle life. Until I call your attention to it, you probably don't think too much about your rate of breathing. You certainly don't think about making sure your heart beats the way that it should, or any of the other things that our body does without our conscious decision to make it happen. So when it comes to decluttering, we have this sort of natural desire for things to be a certain way so that we don't have to think about that. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't like spontaneity or variety. It just means that we want things to be predictable. It's what helps us feel secure in our environment, well-oriented and well-balanced. You know, we usually are in the best mood when things feel like they are just right. When we look around our surroundings and say, I need a change, there's too much stuff here, I need to get rid of some things, our brain is really desiring that autopilot sense, and it's difficult for us to get rid of things. So asking this question, is there a reason I could keep this, is in some ways maybe our brain's last-ditch effort to say, whoa, 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 pump the brakes. How else could we use this item so that things can stay the same way that they always have? So if this is some naturally ingrained automatic response, how do we overcome it and not become a Class C tote shuffler who just finds more creative ways to use our clutter? I think the most universal example of this is with a top sheet or towels. Most often when I hear this question asked, it's in reference to one of those two items, or even things like tablecloths or cloth napkins. Could I use this for something else? And inevitably, not only my brain goes into survival mode, but everybody else's does too. So when you ask them, what could I do with this? There is just a multitude of reasons why you should keep it and repurpose it. But what does that do to our long-term plan for our home? Now, I'm guessing because you have found this video or any of my other videos on this channel that you too are looking to get rid of some of the clutter in your home. So instead of saying, is there a reason to keep this? The better question to ask is, does this item contribute to the changes that I would like to see in my home? So let's take this example of the top sheet in our kids' sheet sets or our own. So my husband and I definitely use our full sheet set. My kids, on the other hand, have never used the top sheet. Even before we decluttered, I would change out their sheets and that top sheet would be kicked down to the bottom, just really crammed in there. It was almost like they couldn't get it far enough away from them. And so when we started decluttering, one of the first things to go were our top sheets. Now, let's do a little math here, and I'll tell you how this really becomes an issue when we start to ask the question, is there a reason I should keep this? So I have 3 boys, and in the beginning, I had 3 to 4 sets of sheets for each one of their beds. So if you do the quick math, that's about 9 to 12 sets of sheets, which doesn't necessarily feel like that much when you just say like, oh, I have 3 sets of sheets for each bed. But when you actually add it up and you start to look in the linen closet, 12 sets of sheets takes up a lot of space. And I had a really good reason to have all of those sets of sheets. We were not yet done potty training. Our kids were still having some accidents at night, and I had to wash sheets at least 4 times a week. So it just made sense that we would have backups. The problem was I didn't actually need as much as I thought I did for a backup. What I really discovered was that I could have a set on the bed and 1 extra that I kept in their closet, and I totally got by with just those 2 sets of sheets for each bed, which meant I cut my inventory of sheets in half just by getting rid of the extra sets that I knew that I did not need. When I realized I did not need the top sheet, that cut my inventory in half again. And so my linen closet went from feeling like everything was just stuffed in there and I couldn't actually get what I needed to, changing sheets out in the middle of the night. The last thing that I want to do is fight with the linen closet, have to pull everything out to be able to find the lost pillowcase that just somehow seems to not be where it needs to be at 2:30 in the morning. And so we can see that it's a pretty easy decision then when we look at all of that context to say, okay, these sheets can go in this function. But then when we ask the question, but is there a reason for me to get rid of this? We can have 857 million reasons that we could keep these sheets. We could do all kinds of things with them, right? We could use them as curtains. We could use them as quilt backs. We could use them as drop cloths. The problem is, how often do we actually do that? I know when I was in the midst of things that painting rooms and making quilts, even though those are things that I really enjoy doing, when I was in the trenches, I wasn't doing any of those things. So taking all of that inventory out of the linen closet, putting it in my sewing cabinet or putting it in the garage to use in a paint project really just took the clutter from one area of my home to another. And 9 times out of 10, we really can get the things that we need pretty easily or improvise. I have several times used a trash bag as a drop cloth. It's not the most convenient way, but if it's a quick project, it gets the job done and we can go on our merry way. Asking the question, does this contribute to the way I want my home to feel, really changes our mindset, our perspective, and the way that we approach decluttering. It keeps us from getting stuck in that I need to hang on to this, or I really don't want to have to learn a new way of doing things. My brain wants to be on autopilot, so I'll just shuffle this to another area so that nothing has to really change. It takes us out of that perspective and gives us the kind of end goal, the carrot for us to keep chasing as we declutter our homes and strive to have a more simplified lifestyle. And this logic can really apply to any area in our homes, whether it is sentimental items, kitchen gadgets, clothes, sheets and towels, or any of the many things that we find kind of cluttering up our home and ultimately cluttering up our minds. So I would encourage you, before you ask the question, is there a reason I should keep this? Take a moment and really think about how it fits into the grand scheme of our lives. If you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to hit the like button and consider subscribing. You can do that by clicking the button right over here. If you're looking for more information on decluttering, you can click any of the videos right over here. I'd love to see you here every Friday as we strive to apply God's Word to our everyday lives, and every Sunday for a Bible study tip. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.